Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for inviting me tonight and welcome for the Nutrition for Bones talk. I've been a volunteer with the Royal Osteoporosis Society and the Manchester Central Support Group for a while now, quite a few years actually. And Stan asked me to do a presentation tonight about nutrition and bones, and I gladly accepted and agreed. So, a bit about myself. My name's Tanya Grenade. I'm a registered associate human nutritionist, and I've completed a master's in human nutrition. And I'm registered with the Association for Nutrition, which is a body which regulates nutritionists in the UK. Also, my favourite areas of nutrition include bone health, and that's why I got involved with the Royal Osteoporosis Society, and also aging well, because I think a good part of life is about, living healthy now, but also thinking about the future and preparing for what life's what to come, because you're expecting to live a long life as well. So that's the best thing to do. In my spare time, I like to play ukulele and I like to make up songs, and I like to go for like walks in nature because I think it's great being outside as well. So yeah, let's get on and talk a bit about nutrition for bones. So, nutrition for bones. Today, we're going to cover a couple of topics. We're going to be starting with why bone health is important. I mean, we hear a lot about bone health, we hear about heart health, gut health, and they're all very important as well. And all health is important to make sure that we're keeping well. But I don't think there's a lot of emphasis on bone health at the moment, so it's important to make that an active topic of discussion. We're also going to talk about nutrition and what kind of diet can help your bones stay healthy. So this is going to be more focused on nutrition for bones, like the topic. So this is also good for overall general health as well. And then next, we're going to talk about where you can find more information. So at the end, I'll have a list of places where you can find more information about bone health and find more information about nutrition as well. And then lastly, I've got a section about questions where you can answer questions with Stan, because unfortunately I'm not there tonight. So I've got an example of some questions that some people have asked me about bone health, and I'll discuss that at the end. And then at the end, you and Stan and the rest of the group can have a little chat about anything that come up. And if you've got any more questions, just ask Stan and he'll let me know, and then I can get back to you later. So, starting off with, why is bone health important? So, for bone health, importantly, our bones, like our skeleton, support us and allow us to move, because without bones, we won't be able to move around anywhere. They also protect our brain, our heart, and organs from injury, which is a very important job. Also, our bones have another thing that they do, which is that they provide storage. So our bones store minerals such as calcium, phosphorus, which help keeps our bones strong, and then release them into the body when we need them for other uses. So our bones do a big job about looking after us and keeping us healthy. So moving on from there, we're just going to talk on about a little bit about bone health and how bone health is in the UK at the moment. Because although we're talking about bone health now, and the Royal Osteoporosis does a great job of keeping bone health as an important topic that people should know about, there are still in the UK 300,000 people every year suffer a fragility fracture, which is a massive number. And of these, 70,000 are hip fractures. Now, this number that we have here is just for the UK, so you can see that it is a massive issue, fragility fractures in the UK. Next, 1 in 2 women over 50, and 1 in 5 men over 50 will get an osteoporotic fracture in their lifetime. So moving on from the last statistic of 300,000 people in the UK, like mostly people over UK, the ones that are most at risk, like when you're older, to get osteoporotic fractures, and they can be very painful and affect day-to-day living. And the next statistic of 64% of women and 34% of men are living with osteoporosis and not getting the NHS treatment that they need. So because of this, and the other statistics that I mentioned as well, like osteoporosis, fragility fractures are a major issue in the UK. And even though they may be known to the NHS, especially with COVID, and the effects of COVID are still being felt, like they're not getting the treatment that they need to live, to live well, and and be able to function with the daily activities of life. And this is why, like, Nutrition for Bones are very important, so we can try to do something to try to keep our bones healthy and try and prevent osteoporotic fractures, fragility fractures from happening in later life. So, talking about diet as well, what kind of diet can help your bones stay healthy? So, first, we're going to talk a bit about balanced diet and what that means. Then, we're going to talk about protein, including dairy products, calcium and vitamin D, what it is, and in what foods you can find it. And then we're going to talk a bit about fruit and veg, why you should eat as much as possible, because it is 5 a day, but you should be at least 5 a day because you can eat as many as you want. And then reduce salt, like how to lower your salt, because there is a link between calcium and salt intake. Balanced diet. So we're going to talk a bit about the Eat Well guide. The Eat Well guide, as shown on the slide, it will apply to most people regardless of weight, dietary restrictions, preferences, or ethnic origin. So it applies to adults in the UK, because this is like a UK Eat Well guide. And it's not for children that are under 2 years of age, as they need to eat a different diet, because young children can't eat solid foods. If you have any special dietary requirements, you might want to speak to your doctor or a dietitian about it, because this is just generalized advice. And now I'll just go through the different sections of the table to let you know a bit more about the Eat Well guide. So we've got the yellow section here, which is for whole grain and higher fiber foods. So that will include like potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, and other starchy carbohydrates. So you've got things like bread, rice, pasta, porridge, whole grain cereals, and they recommend that you base your plate on this. So that's why it covers so much of the plate on the image. The next section is the green section, which is fruit and vegetables. So as we mentioned before, having 5 a day is a good start, but you want to get at least 5 a day. So we've got different fruits and vegetables like lettuce, cucumber, carrots, bananas, etc. So you can have fresh or frozen or dried, or tinned. It doesn't matter, like any of those can count towards your 5 a day, and 80 grams will count as one of your 5 a day as well. And we've got a pink section here, which is beans, pulses, fish, eggs, meat, and other proteins. So this can be, there's a range of foods that fall under this. So we've got like eggs, we've got tuna, we've got fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, trout, etc. Any of these kinds of foods. So the Eat Well guide and the government recommends that we eat more beans and pulses and fish as well, which is oily. And the good thing about oily fish, it contains omega-3. And to eat less red and processed meat, because that's why it's not on the Eat Well guide, because it's recommending that we eat less of that, because these other items of food would be more conducive to a healthy diet. This blue section here is for dairy and dairy alternatives. So we've got things like cheese, we've got yogurt, soya milk, we've got dairy as well. And there's a lot of different choices. You can have almond milk too. The Eat Well guide recommends that you choose dairy products and their alternatives that are lower in fat and lower in sugar. So this is, again, as you mentioned, as part of a healthy diet. They're also outside. Oh, there's a little section here in purple for oils and spread. This is very small because they recommend that you just limit this and just have it sparingly. On the outside of the Eat Well guide, as part of a healthy diet, they recommend drinking 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. So this includes sugar-free drinks and it includes tea and coffee as well. They do make a little recommendation about fruit juice and that you should try and limit it to a small glass a day, which is 150 mils, because it is still quite high in sugar. But again, a small glass of juice will count towards one of your 5 a day. On the bottom left section, we've got a section for snacks, and then they're saying to eat this less often and in small amounts. So you've got like crisps and tomato ketchup and, chocolate and those kind of things. Then on the top left here, we've got the traffic light symbols. So this is on some foods that are in the UK, but not on all foods. Like you won't find them on fresh fruit and veg. You tend to find them on packaged foods generally. So if you're unsure about packaged foods, like the traffic light symbols or system, can help you with making healthier choices, because green means eat often. Green is best, and then red is like eat it less often. So maybe just occasionally. And then the amber color is like for sometimes as well. So you can use that system to help you choose foods that are lower in fat, salt, and sugar. The next section we're going to talk about is protein. So this includes dairy products and dairy substitutes, which we talked about briefly just now when we looked at the Eat Well guide, which was like dairy products and milk and cheese, etc. So protein is important for building and repairing muscles and bones, and it also helps to make hormones and enzymes. So foods that contain protein are meat. So we've got red meat here, like you can have beef, you've got chicken, you can also have pork, you can also have any other kinds of meat that are available. So these will be good sources of protein. We've got eggs here. Eggs are a good choice, like they're very quick and easy to make, and there's different variety of ways of having them. Also good to have as a snack if you like having boiled eggs as well. Good to slice and add to sandwiches as an extra source of protein. We've got beans, peas, and lentils. These are a great source of protein as well, and an alternative to meat sources or dairy products or even eggs, animal products. So there's a variety of ones you can have. You can have green beans, you can have kidney beans, you can have butter beans, a wide variety and choice there, which would be good sources of protein. We've got dairy products. So you've got milk, yogurt, cheese, and soy milk as well. There's also almond milk. Again, all good sources of protein, and it's a good idea to try and include 2 to 3 sources of dairy protein a day, or if not dairy, then dairy alternatives such as soy or almond milk, cashew milk, etc. These are good for protein. We've got fish, oily fish such as sardines or salmon you can have, or you can have different fish such as cod, which are not as oily like a white fish. Again, good sources of protein if you as an alternative to meat or beans, peas, and lentils. You've also got nuts, because a small handful of nuts, it's about 30 grams, is a good source of protein, and so that's what's recommended per day. And you can go for nuts that are unsalted as well, and without like the sweet or extra savory coatings like dry roasted or sugared peanuts and things. Those would be a healthier option. And for protein per day, The UK guidance recommends 0.75 grams of protein per kilo of body weight for average adults. So for an average adult, that means like not for somebody who's pregnant, not for somebody who is doing weight training or is an athlete, just your average regular adult. So for example, 0.7 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So if you weighed 70 kilos, you would need 52.5 grams of protein a day to meet the daily requirements. So next we're going to move on to calcium. So sources of calcium include leafy vegetables, nuts, dairy products, and other substitutes as well, like dairy substitutes. So for calcium, we've got green leafy vegetables such as spring greens, very delicious. You can have spinach, you can have kale, and we've also got a bit of broccoli as well, great sources of calcium. We've also got fortified foods such as cereals, and a good thing with cereals as well, because you tend to eat them with milk. You get extra calcium from milk as well. You've got nuts and seeds as a good source of calcium. So we've got almonds, which are particularly high in calcium, hazelnuts, and even sesame seeds. If you're not liking like the raw nuts or the nuts just as they are, you could opt for like a nut butter, such as an almond nut butter, or even like a sesame seed paste tahini. That's good as a dip, and it tastes very nice with pita or with like Greek style meals. That's a good choice if you wanted to add extra calcium and nuts into your diet. We've got dairy as well for calcium, naturally, milk, yogurt again, and dairy alternatives such as soy milk and almond milk. We've got cheese too, good sources of calcium. You can also get calcium from fatty fish, so you've got sardines and salmon there. The best way to get your calcium from sardines is make sure that you eat the bones of the sardine, because that's where the calcium is. If you're not liking the fishy taste of sardines as well, you can also try sardines that are in a sauce, such as tomato sauce, or they've also got like spicy sauce, like a chili sauce as well in the tins. Those taste very nice too. Or alternatively, if you're looking for a fatty fish, you can also try mackerel, like mackerel fillets in tins. That can also come in a nice sauce as well, and because it's a fillet, it doesn't have the bones. So that's one way of getting like fatty fish and calcium without the bones if you're not into the bones of sardines. And next we've got beans and lentils, which was similar to what we mentioned before with the protein section. This is another good source of calcium. So you can easily add beans to a stew. So if you're making a stew, you want to add extra calcium, you can just throw some beans in, like from a tin. So you might have kidney beans or butter beans, and you can add that to your stew to get some extra calcium as well. Or even as a side, you can add green beans to your Sunday roast as a side. That is a nice vegetable accompaniment to a meal too. Next, we're going to talk about vitamin D. So we're going to talk a bit about sunshine and supplements and some foods that contain vitamin D as well. So vitamin D, you can get it from sunshine in the UK from April to September, because this is when the sun is at its strongest in the UK, and it's at the right intensity, so that when it does shine on your skin, it'll make vitamin D in your skin, and then it will convert it, and then you'll have that in your body. Other alternatives for getting the vitamin D, sources of vitamin D include food sources, which is like salmon, mushrooms, and eggs, like egg yolks in particular, and tuna too. But the thing is with getting vitamin D from some food sources, for example, mushrooms, you have to be sure that the mushrooms you buy have a label on that say that they are high in vitamin D, because, not all mushrooms are high in vitamin D, because it depends upon how they've been nurtured, in their growing phases, and how they've been stored. So if you go to the supermarket and you'll see mushrooms that have a little high in vitamin D sticker, you can be sure that they've got the vitamin D. And if they don't, then they might not have been irradiated with vitamin D and sunlight so that they have enough vitamin D in them. Again, if you can't get vitamin D from sunshine or from food sources, like I mentioned, you can also take a supplement, and supplements are a good alternative. And it's also like a very regular alternative as well, because you can be sure if you take the supplements that you'll be getting your vitamin D every day. This would be a daily supplement, and the UK recommends that you take 10 micrograms of vitamin D or 400 international units of vitamin D a day. You can take more because I've seen there's supplements that are like 20 milligrams or 12.5 milligrams, I think I've seen in some supermarkets. That's fine, it's not to worry, but you just don't want to take anything that's too high. But the recommendation in the UK is 10 micrograms or 400 international units of vitamin D. So moving on, so talking still about nutrition for bones and getting at least 5 different fruit and veg a day. So fruit and veg that's tinned, frozen, fresh and dried all count towards your 5 a day. So if you want to look how much is 5 a day or what counts towards your 5 a day, so a handful, just a simple handful, just grab some fruit, that was about 80 grams. Or if you've got a scale at home, you can actually weigh the fruit. Then if you see how much 80 grams is, that's 80 grams of any fruit, you'd be able to remember for next time, like how much is a portion of fruit. So a handful of dried fruit as well would be 30 grams. That'd be raisins. That also counts as one of your 5 a day. For vegetables, that's cooked vegetables, whether you cooked it from frozen or not. So you've got carrots or peas. 3 heaped tablespoons on your plate will be one of your 5 a day. Again, you can always have more. And then again, if you like lentils and beans, 3 heaped tablespoons. So beans can include baked beans as well. I got a little example of beans on toast. That can be one of your 5 a day, because it could be, if you're thinking of ways to add fruit and veg to your day, you could try a little snack of beans on toast if you like, and then just 3 heaped tablespoons, and then you've added one of your 5 a day in that way. Also, talking about vegetables, potatoes, plantain and cassava don't count as vegetables because they're too starchy. They're a starchy vegetable, and they're usually used as a substitute for things like rice and pasta. But if you are looking for a potato-y style veg, which is still a vegetable, sweet potatoes are a good alternative to potatoes. And you can cook them in the same way, like you can have them as fries. It tastes really nice. Roasted in the oven as wedges, or even mashed as well. They taste great. And then you can eat sweet potatoes as one of your 5 a day as well if you're looking for a potato-y alternative. Oh, next we're going to talk about salt intake and reducing salt intake, because there's a recent paper from the Lancet, and this was from September 2021, and they recommended eating less than 2.5 grams of salt a day, though the UK recommendations for salt is 6 grams or less. But when I say recommendations is 6 grams, it's not like a target. It's like you should eat less salt, but they just recommend try not to go over 6 grams. So if you eat less already, that's great. If you're thinking you do have a lot of salt, or you regularly add salt to your meals, maybe just think if you can reduce the amount of salt you add to your meals, just to try and get it as low as possible. So talking about salt, you might be thinking how or even why does it affect my bones? So salt is important because it plays a part in controlling the amount of calcium in the urine and the amount of calcium that's lost in bones. So as you know, and we've mentioned before, calcium is very important for bone strength. too much salt can lead to bone weakening, and then it'll lead to osteoporosis. And high blood pressure in your body increases the rate at which calcium is lost from the bones. Again, bones will become weaker, and this may lead to osteopenia and then maybe to osteoporosis. So salt does have an important part to play in bone strength and bone health. So, if you're thinking about where you can find more information about bone health, we've got the Royal Osteoporosis Society, their main website. It's a great resource for all things bone health related, osteoporosis, osteopenia. You can find a lot of information in terms of videos. They've got a lot of fact sheets which will go into things like calcium and vitamin D, and especially calcium and vitamin D, and other types of minerals such as magnesium, phosphorus, and even vitamin K. They will go into more detail on how these other nutrients, micronutrients, can help with bone health and keeping your bones strong and healthy. They've also got videos as well for information if you're newly diagnosed with osteoporosis, and videos about exercise. Although this talk isn't about exercise, this is a very good resource if you're looking for other ways to improve your bone strength, because weight-bearing exercise is excellent for improving your bone strength. And the Royal Osteoporosis Society website has a lot of good videos at different levels. So if whether you currently have an osteoporotic fracture, fragility fractures, you can look on that website and find some resources and videos which may help you with that too. Next, we've got the ROS free osteoporosis helpline. Again, this is with the ROS. And what's good about this is they have a helpline which is manned by nurses, and they can give you individual advice over the phone. So you can call them with any questions you have about bone health. So that could be to do with what we talked about today, nutrition and bone health. You can ask them about anything from your diagnosis, or if you've been to hospital recently, or you have a relative that might have questions, or you might be noticing things about their bone health and you want to ask a professional about it. You can call them. They're very friendly. The number's there. They're very good and very patient as well, and they will definitely help with any queries that you have. They will take your time to speak to you. And then next we have the British Nutrition Foundation. This is a really good resource for like general nutrition information, because today I talked a little bit about protein and calcium and vitamin D, but this website will go into more detail about the nutritional aspects of these nutrients, but also they'll talk about other parts of nutrition that we've not had a chance to talk about today. So they can talk about carbohydrates and the importance of sugar in your diet, or eating less sugar, free sugars. There's information as well about iron, which is another nutrient we didn't talk about, and the importance, and fiber, which is very important for gut health as well. So if you wanted to read more generally about nutrition and healthy diet in more detail, I would recommend the British Nutrition Foundation. It's a great resource and very easy to read, and it's been recently updated as well. So now we've come to the question time. So as I mentioned before, unfortunately I can't be with you all today. So I've got a couple of questions that people have asked me in the past, and I'm just going to go through them. And so here it goes. So the first question is, how can I check how much calcium I'm eating? So in the past, like I've had a question from a lady, and she was asking about calcium intake and how much calcium, because she was thinking about if she needs to eat more calcium or is she getting enough calcium, because she was considering taking supplements as well. So one thing I mentioned to her was you can go on the calcium calculator. You can check that. This is on the International Osteoporosis Foundation website, and they have a calcium calculator where you'll input like basic information such as your gender, your age. You put in if you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis or not, osteopenia, because this actually does affect like your calcium recommendations. As if you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia, it's recommended that you take more than the UK daily allowance, which is 700 milligrams a day for adults aged 19 to 64. So I think if you have osteoporosis, they recommend more. So that could be up to 1,000 milligrams a day or more. And again, that would depend upon what your doctor or specialist has recommended. So the calcium calculator also has different foods. So it's got like quite a long list. It will have different types of dairy products, non-dairy products, fish, meat, cereals, etc. And you can input it all, then it will calculate what's your intake of calcium. Then you can have a good idea of whether you're meeting the recommendations or not. And the next question is what foods, are bad for bones? So this was another question I got, because a lot of the times when we do talks, you focus on like what's good for you, but then you're kind of thinking, well, is there anything I shouldn't eat because I'm not sure? So when we were talking about it, like we had a little chat, and they were saying that there aren't any foods that are bad, but as it is in life, you can't be having everything all the time. You need to have a bit of moderation. So things regarding bone health which need to be enjoyed in moderation are alcohol, caffeine, fizzy drinks, and also phytates and oxalates, which you find in spinach and rhubarb. So phytates and oxalates, they prevent the absorption of calcium in the body. It depends upon like how it's cooked and how much you eat. Pardon me. But because it affects the absorption of calcium, it may be, pardon me, because it affects the absorption of calcium, you just need to be aware of it. But if you are taking enough calcium in your diet already, and even taking supplements, if you need to take supplements, you should be okay, but just be aware of it. And then the last question is, how do I know if I'm getting enough vitamin D from the sun? So vitamin D from the sun, as I mentioned earlier, you need to have it on your exposed skin. So this question came because like they'd heard about like getting vitamin D from the sun, but they weren't sure like how do you do it, or when do you do it, or how long do you have to be in the sun. So in the UK, the best time to get vitamin D from the sun is from April to September, because then when the sun shines directly on your skin, it'll be able to convert the molecules that are under the skin into vitamin D, and then you'll be able to absorb it in your body. So the way you do that is you have to spend time in the sun. So this would be about 20 to 30 minutes in the sunshine with your skin exposed, so you don't have sun cream on. But however, if you can't expose your skin to the sun, so you've got sensitive skin, or you have to cover your skin for different reasons, then I would recommend taking a vitamin D supplement. As I mentioned before, vitamin D supplements are, recommended in the UK at 10 micrograms per day in the UK. So you can take these kinds of supplements as well. So that was the question that I answered for her, and then she was able to make a decision upon whether she was getting enough vitamin D from the sun or not. And also she could be recommended supplements. So then we've got to this section. So this is the part where if you've got any more questions, feel free to discuss, but this is the end of my talk. But thank you very much for inviting me today. And again, if you've got any more questions, like just let Stan know and he'll let me know, and then I can get back to you with answers. But thanks very much, and I hope you have a good evening. Bye bye.